Hi everyone, this is Stephanie with the Salonik team at Long and Foster Real Estate. Today our topic of conversation for investors is renovation budgets and figuring out rehab costs. More importantly for me as a realtor is so that I can help you guys figure out what is the best price you're willing to pay for a property. And as many of you know, if you're a real estate investor today in this market, you don't have time to have a contractor come out. You don't have time to get estimates, to basically be involved in analysis paralysis. You have to be able to see a property, be able to do a quick desktop evaluation of the property, and be able to put in an offer on it so that you know you have a shot at getting the property. A few ways that we get properties. So MLS, a listed property by a real estate agent. Most of the time you can go inside it so that you can get all of the information we're going to talk about firsthand. You will see it with your own eyes. You can investigate stuff in the house, but really you shouldn't have to be in that property for more than about 20 to 30 minutes. Some of them must be moldy, gross. You don't want to be in there that long anyway. So if you can go in the property, if it's an MLS listing, if you're talking to a private seller, you're a wholesaler, you're going in, you're trying to get a contract with them that you can sell to somebody else, or the sight unseen property. So if you are buying a sheriff sale, you can't go in it, can't evaluate it. If it is tenant occupied, like a bank owned, that the bank is selling it, occupancy status is on to the buyer. So you can't really go inside it, but you need to be able to figure out what price do I want to offer on this property. Another great thing that we have coming up is our silent offer ballroom event. So we are putting up properties from a particular investor client who wants to see what we can sell for him in one day. So we're putting his whole portfolio up mostly. So with this, you're not going to be able to tour the property. We have photos, we have information. So how do you evaluate what offer you are going to make on this property? So if you can see photos, that's great. If there's no current photos of the property, is there a previous MLS listing? Is there something from Zillow? Sometimes it is completely blind. I've had properties. There was one in Quakertown that was being sold. Occupancy is for the buyer to establish. The previous owner was still there. They were foreclosed on. But this house was built in 2008, and it was a prefab. So in my mind, how bad could it be? Everything was new in 2008. It was a brand new house. So that's where we get into how do you evaluate what is the price that you are willing to pay for this property. So you're going to see my chart behind me a little bit. It kind of goes over where our sweet spot is. Our sweet spot has always been, first-time home buyer, or it's an upgrade for single-family home from your first house, around 1,500 to 2,000 square foot, single detached. Those are the best properties, best projects. Sorry, my air is turned on. I'm going to turn that off. Those are the best projects that we like to get involved with because, one, we know there's plenty of buyers out there for it. It could be single people, people with family, older people. Any time of the year, a project like that is going to sell. So I used an example, which is behind me on the board. Hopefully you guys can see it. I will pick it up and zoom it into the camera at the end here so you guys can see it closer. So we're going to use an example. It could be any property in the world, single family, 1,500 square foot, somewhere in the Lehigh Valley. We know that the market is good here. I want to flip it. So that's something else to think about when you are evaluating your renovation budget and repair costs. What is your end game? Are you going to flip it? Are you going to renovate it, refinance it, rent it out? Or are you just buying it basically to keep renting it to the tenant in place or to offer a lease to the person who's living there because you're buying it with occupancy unknown? So I'm going to use the analogy of a flip because I like to flip, but we can use the same kind of formula, just a little modification if you are going to hold it as a rental property. So with a flip, it is 1,500 square foot, single family detached, and I gave a couple specifics because this is information you would be able to get off the public record of the property. Every property has public record. So it says 23 years old, public water, but it has an on-site septic. So for a lot of investors, I know this gets you fleeing for the hills just because it's an on-site septic. Not necessarily for me. I think the bigger project, the bigger profit potential. And everybody knows there's a lot of competition out there right now for projects. So on-site septic, ARV 200,000. That's what I put it at. So with an on-site septic, if you cannot do a test, if you don't know if it's passing or not, but I see that the age of the house is 23 years old, I'm going to budget to replace it. In Bucks, Lehigh, Northampton County, and the areas we kind of focus on, chances are good if it's 23 years old, it's either going to fail, unsatisfactory, or it's going to need some repairs to it. Maybe a D-box, maybe a lid, there's a baffle broken inside. So if I can't go in it, I'm estimating on the high end. So I know I can replace a septic system with a sand mound for about $25,000, so I'm going to put that into the budget. So we're going to talk about two different ways to evaluate your renovation budget. So you see the one way above the squiggly line, you see the other way below the squiggly line. So a wonderful investor I know, she kills it. She does the square foot method, which I usually do the bottom, she does the top. So I'm going to share both and how we come up with basically the same number for it. So square foot method. Her formula, which does work because it equals out to the same thing I do. If the property is less than 10 years old, her renovation budget is $15 a square foot. So if you do the math, 1,500 square foot times $15, that's your renovation budget right there. So for the sake of this house, it's 23 years old. So that takes us to the next step. So $25 between 11 and 30 years old. And the main reason for this is most systems of a house have a life expectancy between 20 and 30 years. So at this point, probably about half of your major systems are going to need replacing, updating, upgrading, repairs. And then there's a third step to this formula, which I've sold many of these properties to. $50 a square foot. Anything that's more than 31 years old, and it's obvious that they have not done any of the upgrades that would be necessary during that 20 to 30 year period when it was first built. So if you do the math on this one, $25 a square foot gives us $37,500 to use towards renovating the house. And then I put $25,000 on there for the septic. So our total renovation budget using the square foot method is $62,500. This is really important for the fact that we give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room with it. We estimate a little bit high. Probably it'll cost between $55 and $60, but permits, clean out fees, dumpsters. So we're going to go with $62,500. So I'm going to go over those numbers one more time. If it is less than 10 years old, 10 years old or less, $15 a square foot. So that's cosmetic upgrades. Countertops, flooring, fresh paint, light fixtures, the stuff that you're going to do if somebody really beat up a 10-year-old house. You're probably not going to have to do the heating system. You're not going to have to do windows or a roof or plumbing or electrical because all that stuff's newer unless you get into a house where the pipes are frozen. So this time of year, we don't have to worry about that as much, but as we get into December, January, we just kind of kick that number over an extra $2,000 or $3,000 in case we have frozen pipes. Now, the way that I look at properties when I evaluate them, and I do the other system, square foot method. Sorry, let me back up a step. I jumped ahead. I was going over those numbers with you again. So $15 a square foot for a property that's 10 years old or less. $25 a square foot for a property that is between 11 and 30 years old. And then $50 a square foot for a property that is between, well, older than 31 years old. So if you can keep those numbers in mind, you get the public record for a property, you see the age, you see, if it's public water and sewer, or if it's on-site both, or like a lot of properties around the area, it has one or the other. So that's why I use the example of public water, but on-site septic. So now the other method. What we look at is the major systems of the house. And a lot of these you can tell from the outside of it. You don't even have to step foot inside the property. I have a list just to make sure I don't forget one. So roof and windows. You can definitely see that on a drive-by. You could stand on the sidewalk and look at it. You can tell, I can tell from looking at a roof, if it's slate, if the slates are falling off, the slate looks to be in good condition and there's no missing pieces. If you have an asphalt shingle roof, you see that it's architectural shingle and it's laying flat. If you see that it's starting to curl, it's missing shingles, you're going to know, looking at the roof, if it needs a new roof, or if I'm going to flip this house and it's halfway through its usable life, I'm not going to replace the roof. Windows, you're going to be able to tell that from the outside too. If there's any broken windows, anything that needs to be done. So for me, a roof and windows, 10K. So if I look at a house that needs both, a house of this size, if it only needs a roof, it doesn't need windows, then I cut that in half. It's 5,000. The electric system. Now you're going to be able to tell from the meter outside and the lines going into the house if they've been upgraded in the 23 years that this property has been there. Probably it's the original electric system. Probably it has circuits, not fuses. But you can look at the meter from the outside, see what the lines look like. That's probably pretty close to what it's going to look like inside the house as well. So if it needs a new electric system, I budget 5,000. If it needs plumbing, so I've had an entire 1,800 square foot house, all of the plumbing redone for $5,000. So I have great people I work with. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more, but I like to deal in round numbers, but I can do this quick on the spot. So if you tour a house with me, you're like, hey, Seth, what do you think the renovation budget is? I can do this in 5 minutes and tell you 60, 65,000. You see my formula across the bottom there. So 200,000 ARV, which I know, standing in it, what I'm going to list it for to sell it for you at. If you were getting financing, I use 12% as our holding and financing costs. So in this equation, that's $24,000. Our renovation budget that we figured out is about 63, and my profit, if I'm going to do a flip, I at least want to make 20,000 on it. So you have 200,000 minus our 24,000 for our holding costs and our financing costs. If I'm cash buying on this deal, I'm going to cut that number in half. So financing 24, profit 20, renovation 63. So sorry, my light in the office isn't making it right there. So in my evaluation standing in the house, I say I want to offer more than 93 on it. Obviously, we're going to try to get you a better deal. So, we throw in the offer at 85 and see what they say. So if you are a realtor, I see a few of you logged in here. If you are a realtor and you've gotten these low offers from me, it's because I am fishing for a good deal. I'm fishing for somebody to take a bite when I throw out the line. All right, so back to major structures of the house. Roof and windows we talked about, electric, plumbing we talked about, HVAC. This is a big one too. So if I'm in a single family, 1,500 square foot house, those buyers, they don't want electric baseboard heat. They want to have a central heating system, and most of them want central air if they're going to buy a renovated property. So if I just have to replace a heating system, I have to do a gas furnace, oil furnace, I put in an electric heat pump, I budget about $5,000 for that. Now, if we're doing central air, we're going to budget $10,000 to get that system in and in place. Something else to know, if it already has ductwork. If you don't have to install new ductwork, you can probably get all this done for about $6,000. But again, I'm a worst case scenario kind of girl. I know I could get somebody to put in a system and ductwork in a 1,500 square foot house for $10,000. So next system, structure and foundation. What does the house sit on? Does it have a basement? Are there beams in the basement that are not in good shape? Do they have those lollygag? Can't talk today, so you guys can laugh at me. Lollygag columns in the basement where they kind of twist up to support the floor because it started sagging in the middle. So if you think that there's a question as to the structure of the house, there was a sinkhole. If you see the ground next to the house kind of sliding in towards the foundation, you may wind up with structural issues. So these are all things we're still outside looking around. Does the property have a well? If it needs a well or a well pump or things like that, I budget about $5,000 per well. And then septic, we already talked about that I budget $25,000 to put in a new septic. And then on to the fun stuff that every project has, cosmetics. If you are doing flooring and paint in this house, it'll be about $8,000. And that's typical, carpets in the bedroom, some sort of laminate or hardwood on the first floor, tile in the bathrooms. So paint, flooring for this entire thing, because you're not going to renovate a house without doing new flooring. It's about $8,000. If you need to replace a kitchen, a full kitchen, I budget about $10,000. That's what I spend between countertops, appliances, cabinets, lighting fixtures, making it a nice kitchen that people would want. Bathrooms, I go $5,000 for a full bathroom, and that would include a tub with a tile surround or a standalone shower with a tile surround, or $2,500 for a half bathroom. So the cool part about this is if I'm looking at a 23-year-old house, not everything needs to be done. This is a very typical, when I go through property, I look at it, roof and windows, okay, I'm not going to do those. There's no broken windows, no problem. But if I see like 2 or 3, then, I might put $1,000 or $2,000 on it instead of doing everything. If the electric system looks upgraded and newer, I'm not going to budget anything for electric. HVAC, 23-year-old house, chances are very good that heater and air conditioner are on its last leg. And if I don't do it now, the buyer's going to do their home inspection and they're going to want a new heater anyway because, as you know, those inspectors are going to say it is at the end of its useful life. So I'm going to budget in a new heater and an air conditioner for this one. The structure of this house looked good, no issues from the outside that I could tell. Plumbing, anytime that we're going to replace bathrooms, there's always going to be plumbing because you need new fixtures, new lines. So we did half of the plumbing budget, which was $2,500. Cosmetics, you're going to have that in every house. So that's the $8,000 for this house. Kitchen we're doing, obviously it's a 23-year-old kitchen. Nobody upgraded it. We have a bath and a half in this house, so we're at $7,500 for 2 new bathrooms. And then we still have the septic. Awesome if you can test the septic and know yes or no, is it passing or failing? But sometimes you cannot. So I am doing this method that I never stepped foot in the door of that house. I either walked around it from the outside or I looked at previous listing pictures from 3 years ago and I could see what was in it then. Because it doesn't get better usually if you're foreclosed on or they're selling it for a cash offer. So with this method, which is a very typical house, it got me to a renovation budget of $63,000. So you can see how the square foot method that a wonderful investor that I know uses winds up being the same way that my method goes. So by the age of the house, price per square foot will get you your renovation budget. Where me, I kind of go through and in about 20 minutes inside a house, I can check out the roof and windows. I can check out the electric. The HVAC, like I will know from the outside. Is there a newer looking chimney cap on it? Is the AC unit on the outside of the house look like it's less than 5 years old? So when we think about it, if I had a house that's 23 years old, it starts to fail around 20, maybe 18 to 20 years, you probably replace that air conditioning unit. That's a comfort thing. So if they replace the outside air conditioning unit, then the inside is probably new as well. They probably didn't do just one. There's a lot of cues that you can get from the outside of the house. You can also call the local municipality, find out if there were any permits pulled on that property for anything. So if it did have a new HVAC system, probably the person who put it in pulled a permit for it, so you can find out what year that was installed. Other things, electrical, you can call PP&L and see if they've ever come out for service to the property. I mean, kitchens, bathrooms, people live in them, they love them while they're there, but when they move out, most of the time they need a refresh. So that's almost always. Painting is almost an always. If properties didn't need the cosmetics, people would just put them on the market and sell them because the cosmetics are what sell it. The structural parts of the property are going to be what gets it sold for you after home inspections. So I want to talk a little bit about evaluating renovation budgets for rental properties. So it's a little different. When I see a property, it's going to depend on the location of it. What type of property? Are we A-class area? Is there enough industry around? Is the jobs awesome enough that we have enough potential renters that could support an A-class rental and the rent that comes with it? Or most likely in this area, we're looking at a B to a high B class. It's really nice, it's refreshed, but we're not putting $500 faucets on the sink to really impress somebody. We don't have a gym in the building for them to work out at. So B-class rental is usually where I'm at with evaluating a property. And it kind of goes back to the same formula that we have if you're at a B-class rental. So you can do the price per square foot to refresh the property based on the age, or you can do the quick look over, is the roof good? We need new windows in this property. goodness, what do the electric meters look like on the outside? I mean, do they look original from when the supply line's in, or the line's frayed? That you can look at the HVAC units that are sitting outside or on the roof of the property. Structure. Does it look like it's leaning? Does it look like any of the walls are coming in? Are there cracks by the steps, the doors, the windows, the things that cause pressure on a house? Do you see any of those items that would be a red flag that you have a structural issue with the property? Plumbing, somebody's living there. I mean, if it's tenant occupied, the plumbing's working. You might have a couple spots with leaks, so a couple thousand to fix those, but if it's vacant and it's been vacant a while, probably has broken pipes, so you should budget for all new piping and feel like you won the lottery if you don't need it. Cosmetics, you always need to get rented, so you might not put granite countertops in a B-class rental. I mean, you might if you get a good deal on them, but you could do a very nice solid surface countertop that is new and clean and fresh. The tenants would like. Bathrooms, we like to do high key white, white tubs, white showers. If there is tile, generally in a rental, we are not going to do tile surrounds at a B class. Obviously, new fixtures in the bathrooms. So septic, most of the time, if you have a multi-unit, it's going to be public water and sewer, so we don't have to worry about that as much. You might have a couple of new lines, which is part of plumbing, or maybe a lateral line out to the curb that you'd have to replace. But you can use these same principles of evaluating what needs to be done in the property to putting together a renovation budget very quickly. And you can multiply this. So if it's a 4,500 square foot apartment building, you can use the formula and just increase what I was talking about. So I'll go over my numbers one more time. I like 1,500 because that's the average most properties that we do. But if we happen to do like 4,500 4-unit property, then I just multiply my numbers. So roof and windows. For a 1,500 square foot space, I go with $10,000 towards budget. For electrical, $5,000. For plumbing, $5,000. For HVAC systems. So most of the time in a B-class rental, you're not providing central air. It could be electric baseboard, but tenants don't like that. So I do like to have a centralized form of heat, whether it's a gas heater. We hate to have oil in rentals, but if the oil tank's already there and it's in good shape, we may put a new oil furnace in for the tenant, or it's an electric heat pump. That's my favorite. I like to put electric heat pumps in that have central air. So figure $5,000 for the heater, $10,000 if you are going to do central air in the property. So if it's already there and you just need to replace it, it's probably around $6,000-7,000 for the units and install. Structure and foundation. This is something I want to elaborate a little bit on. So we kind of breezed through it in both of my analogies before, but if you see something that gives you a red flag that there could be a structural issue with this property, I usually budget in about $30 a square foot. So in this particular example, that would be $45,000. So if you have a crumbling wall, if there's a sinkhole underneath the house, or there was one in the house next door and something just doesn't seem right, if you see cracking by the windows, by the doors, the pad, the patio on the back of the house is sloped right into the back of it, that you see that it's been sinking. So that means there's been water infiltration, it's been pushing against it. You probably have a wall that's starting to lean inside your basement. So if I can't get an engineer out, I'm going to budget about $30 a square foot towards repairing, replacing that. Another thing that comes up pretty often, especially in this area from the age of housing, is the actual beams underneath the house. Once you get a property that's more than 40 to 50 years old, a lot of times they basically cut down a tree, planed either side, and use that as your foundation in the basement. You've seen them, like the tree trunks. They're large barn beams is the basic way that I can explain it. So a lot of times those have what was called powder-borne beetle damage, or they have moisture damage. If you ever walk into the basement of one of those houses, absolutely, you have to check out your sill plate, which is the wood that sits around the top of the foundation, as well as the beams that run across the house. So if you're in and you're walking and you feel like the floors are uneven, that is a structural issue because there's something not being supported from the bottom. if you see one of those columns that is adding additional support underneath the floor, it was sinking. There's something structural. It needs to be resupported. It needs new beams or an extra brace in the basement. I'm not an engineer, but I just know the things that we've had to do with properties for clients and for ourselves when we renovated them. So I've never spent more than that. Now, I do have a client that does buy some sinkhole properties, and he has spent more than that fixing a very bad sinkhole. But I would know that going in. I would kick up my budget if it was, the sinkhole is right underneath the house and the whole house dropped a couple inches, things like that. So for the most part, as a new investor, it is very hard to be able to do this because you walk into the house, you want to be there for 2 or 3 hours, you want to document every square inch of it so that you can go home and you can agonize over what is a renovation budget. While you are doing that, the investors that can walk in the door and do a desktop analysis in 5 minutes have already made their offer and they're pushing to get it accepted that night. There's probably multiple offers. There's probably a call for highest and best the next morning. So in this particular example, I would throw out an offer of 85. And if I've got a call for highest and best, I throw it in at 93. And if we get it, we get it. If we don't get it, we don't. If I was countered, they said, you know what, 105, we do it. And I say, you know what, I just need to make sure that I have a septic inspection then and make sure the septic passes. I'll still buy it as is, but I'm not going to pay your price if the septic doesn't pass. And sometimes you can negotiate that. Sometimes you can't. It depends how you're buying the property, who's selling it, if it's occupied, things like that. I see a few of you guys logged in. I know most people wind up logging in after the fact. We get about 50 or 60 people checking these things out within 24 hours. But if you guys have questions, something I can address for you, if you do it a different way that works for you, comment. I would love to share information with you. That's the best part of having an investor group and community of people online that are all there to help each other. Hearing how different people do it, maybe it makes you feel better about your own system of how you evaluate. Maybe it makes you think twice about calling the contractor out every single time you're trying to get a property under agreement. A lot of times with my investor clients, I'll see something somewhere and I say, this is a great deal. So I'll do the numbers, I'll do the math. Hey, if you paid $90 for it, you're going to make a solid probably $22,000, $23,000 on this property. You want to go in for it. So I can call my clients with something like that. And if I called you and I said, hey, I got a great deal for you. You make about $25,000. You want me to put you in for it? You say yes. Let's see if I can get it for you. If I can, perfect. We go tour it before you put money down on it. Or we go walk around the outside or stand on the curb or sit in a car out front and just stare at the house for a little bit if there's somebody living there. But those are the ways that I evaluate properties, how I can figure out the renovation budget very quickly. You've seen them. If you pull up out front of a train wreck house, if you pull out front of a house that looks like any house in your neighborhood, there's two very different budgets for it. But we're talking on average, most houses that might have really high grass, it hasn't been well kept, we got to clean up landscaping, stuff like that, and then do cosmetics inside. So I will leave you with those thoughts for today. I know, wow, I'm like right on the dot for 30 minutes. But any of you guys, if you want to reach out to us about our silent offer event on August 15th, because I'm super excited, I wish you guys would all come. It's at the Centennial Ballroom across from the Promenade Shops in Center Valley. We're selling about 20, I think there's 27 properties on the list right now. So some are flips, some are fully occupied rentals that have been rehabbed. Some are projects for multi-units that just have to be done. I mean, we even have a building lot, a vacant building lot that you can build a house on and sell it. So there's something for every investor, or just come and network, say hi to us. Our whole team will be there to assist you with buying some stuff and placing some offers. We're here in Hellertown. You can reach me, 866-721-8950. I'm at extension 101. Happy to help. Have a great day, everyone.